I hit record, so we're now recording.
Okay, are we ready here? Welcome to Protection and Policy for Monday, October 11th. We'll take the roll call. Alder Steuer, I am here. Alder Stevens. You're muted. Alder Stevens is here. Alder Lefebvre.
Here.
And Alder Vanderleest.
Here.
All present and accounted for. Ready, Mary? Celestine, is Mary going to handle the meeting today?
Yes, she is. I'm here as the clerk, not as the meeting manager.
Are we ready to go, Mary?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's see here. Approval of the agenda. I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by
A second.
Vanderleest, seconded by Lefebvre. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously.
All right.
Ready?
I'm
You
all
ready?
set.
All right. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Stevens. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Lefebvre. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously.
Sorry.
Mary, we're ready?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
All right. Regular business, number one, consideration with possible action on a change of agent for Walgreens Company at 1401 East Mason. Staff.
Yes, hi, Alder. This is Clerk Jeffrey. So this is a standard change of agent, and it was approved by the police department, unless the police department has anything else to add.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Joanne, you were here? You're muted, Joanne.
Yes, I'm muted. I just realized that. Yes.
Oh,
Law
okay.
department has no objection.
Okay, great. Police.
Please concur.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Vanderleest. We have a second by Stevens. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you, Clerk Jeffries, for chiming in too. So we know you're there. Thank you. All right.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Number two, consideration with possible action on a request by Appleton Indoor Golf LLC at 2255 Main Street to extend the issuance of their liquor license to November 1st. License granted at the August 3rd, 2021 Common Council meeting. Staff.
Yeah, so they were proactive in coming to the clerk's office, that they were going to go past the 60-day mark with their renovations. And so there was an unexpected issue, as usual, with remodeling. So they're actually looking at an November 15th extension.
Okay.
That's what I have to offer. Then I turn over to the law and PD.
Okay. Thank you, Clerk Jeffries. Attorney Bunger.
Yes. Law department
Yeah.
doesn't have any objections. They just need to request this extension because in order to be in compliance with our ordinance, they have to be in operation within a certain time frame after the license was granted. So because
Okay.
of these construction delays, they're asking for this addition.
Okay,
We would just ask that any motion state that it's extended until November 15th, just so it's clear for the record.
right. Okay. All right. Then police, I presume, well, I just want to get the police's.
The police have no objections to extending it.
Okay. All right, Alder
I just have
LaFave.
a question. Are they past Fleet? They must be out quite a ways because I'm not sure where this is.
This is,
Yes, they are very far on Main Street. They are pretty far out. They're not in a moratorium area. So yes, that's on, Main Street all the way out, if I'm not mistaken, but it looks like Lieutenant Mahoney has something to offer.
yeah, do you remember where the old east side branch of the Brown County Library is in that brick building?
Mhm.
That's where this is located, the old Brown County
Oh.
Library branch, right next to Superior Liquor. I believe there used to be a Titletown Fitness or something in there. It's
Mhm.
that brick building with white trim.
Right.
There's an Associated Bank over there, right in that little strip mall area.
Okay.
If-
Trying to play in, but I know there's a liquor store on the end, and then there's, Titletown is going to become the library. So, trying to figure out. Okay.
All right.
Motion to approve, Mark.
Okay, motion by Vanderleest, seconded by Stevens to approve, and the motion would include, can you state it one more time, Attorney Bungert? And we'll do that.
Right, motion to extend the issuance of their liquor license to November 15th.
Okay, so we have a motion by Vanderleest, Stevens. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That passes unanimously.
I'm all set.
All right, thank you. Number 3, consideration with possible action on an application for an available Class B combination liquor license by LCS LLC Eats Lounge at 1583 Main Street with a licensed premises description as stored-in coolers, walk-in cooler, liquor room behind the licensed as a Class B combination reserve license by Club 920 staff.
So Club 920 currently has a reserve Class B license that of course is not surrenderable to someone else. The city currently has 6 available licenses and there are 2 applications and this is one of them. This facility is not in a moratorium area and currently there are no licensed outdoor premises.
Okay. Attorney Bungert?
Law Department has no objections.
Okay, police?
The police talked to the prospective owners quite extensively, wanting to make sure they're going to use the same security measures that Club 920 did. It is an establishment that we have had quite a few police calls. The owners of 920 were very proactive with the police, followed all of our suggestions. We just confirmed that with the potential new owners, that the stipulations will be enforced against them if they violate any of them. And they agreed to follow the same security protocols as Club 920 did. So we don't have any objections to that.
Okay, thank you for that. Staff, or I'm staff, committee, anybody have a
Motion to
question?
approve.
Motion by Vanderleest, seconded by Stevens. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. That passes unanimously.
And I'm ready.
All right, number 4, consideration with possible action of a city review of enforcement scenarios, including citations and warnings with respect to loud automobile, truck, and other vehicular forms of transportation. Communication from Alder Steuer, District 10, previously discussed at the August 2021 Protection and Policy Committee meeting. I was in touch with citizen Rob Miller on this issue, and we brought it forward to this committee to have discussion amongst the staff as well as the committee and other citizens that might be interested in this. And when you read this, we're looking at enforcement scenarios with possible action with loud automobile, truck, and other vehicular forms of transportation. And I know Attorney Mays sent an email out to us talking about that a little bit. And I'll get to you, Attorney Mays, shortly. I think part of the reason we brought this forward was because of it's not so much just the loud noise from mufflers and other things like that. We're talking about actual sound systems, music systems that are very loud and vibrate. So I know we have noise ordinances in the city, that might deal with some of that, but I just need to be able to be part of a discussion that will include our law department, Mr. Miller, other citizens, and our committee. So, Attorney Mays, did you want to talk a little bit about the email that you sent, or just talking about, you might have talked to the police about this as well, so you kind of understand a little bit where we're coming from.
Absolutely. Yeah, I reviewed the materials that Mr. Miller sent to the committee for the August meeting. I also had an opportunity to talk to traffic patrol sergeant at the police department. I talked to the superintendent of parking over in DPW. So I talked to a number of people about the issue to try to get a full scope version of what's going on and what our options are. Starting with just looking at the data points, what is the volume of complaints that we're looking at here? I was provided with the online traffic complaints from September 1st through either today, I believe it's through this morning. And there were 22 traffic complaints submitted online. Of those, 22 related to speed, 11 of them also involved noise, but none of those were stereo related. They were all mufflers, backfiring, modified exhaust systems, that kind of thing. So they were equipment violations. I also spoke to one of the crime analysts about looking at dispatch notes. So just searching for the terms loud and the letters VEH, so the first three letters of vehicle, to see what kind of hits we would get. And we got 24 hits going back to July 1st in the general area of the Navarino neighborhood. So this was a more directed search. The online complaints were for the entire city. There was only one in the Navarino area from those 24 or from those 22. Of the ones that we're just looking at, the dispatch notes in the Navarino neighborhood, 8 of the 24 complaints going back to July 1st had to do with stereos and sound systems. So looking at dispatch notes, looking at the online complaints, we had 8 complaints for stereo, loud stereos, loud music coming from vehicles, that kind of thing. So after talking to parking enforcement, which is a self-funded division, the parking enforcement agents, the funds that they raise from issuing citations and enforcing parking lot restrictions and time restrictions, that goes towards funding repairing the ramps and the parking lots and overhead costs. So to pull parking enforcement away from doing parking enforcement duties to do something like noise enforcement, I think would be misplaced resources, and the Department of Public Works certainly did not express an appetite to take on those noise ordinance enforcing responsibilities. After talking to the police department, it appears that there are some directed vehicle noise enforcement efforts in place, specifically around the equipment violations, the mufflers and the modified exhaust systems. The officers that I spoke to did not get the sense that stereo noise from vehicles was a high priority issue with a lot of complaints. The data kind of bears that out. Now, maybe in the Navarino neighborhood, it may be more of an issue. But as Mr. Miller suggested in his materials, there is a statute that provides for owner liability, and anyone can report their 5 pieces of information that need to be submitted in order for the officer to investigate and potentially issue a citation. Those pieces of information include the date, the time, the approximate location, the license plate of the vehicle, and the general type of vehicle. Was it a sedan? Was it an SUV? Was it a commercial vehicle? Was it a motorcycle? Those types of things. So if that information is submitted to police, they can issue a citation. But both when I talked to officers and just as the prosecutor who has to meet a burden of proof if these citations are contested, issuing a citation just based off of a sole complainant's information would be difficult to meet a burden of proof. So certainly if someone was able to capture some cell phone video and they reported that information, that would help with the prosecution for a stereo or a car noise violation. The owner's liability for the auto noise only applies in situations with the stereo or the electrified, the amplification devices. So the owner liability would not apply to any of the equipment noise that there have been a number of complaints on. So Officer Rager is on the call here with us. He's one of the dedicated traffic enforcement officers. He can speak more to the specific observations that he's made as a traffic officer. His observations of the calls that have been dispatched, and what kind of directed enforcement efforts there have been towards vehicle noise.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Mays. We'll be talking to you further, but before I'll get to Officer Rager, but we had a couple of our committee, Alder Stevens, you wanted, and then Alder LaFave.
Yes, Attorney Mays, you made a comment that you sent an email to us. When did you send that?
You know what? I stand corrected. She sent it to me and I thought I might have sent it out. I probably didn't. That's on me. Or was it? That's on me. Okay, can you briefly, I think you pretty much described it right now as far as what it is. I think the big thing, Alder Stevens, was that we were talking about the noise from vehicles, and it seemed like that there was more emphasis on speeders as well as loud mufflers and things like that, as opposed to loud stereo noises. That there was more of an emphasis that way, and that was the gist of the email. Am I correct?
If you could just forward that email to us, it'll be great.
I will. Go ahead.
I also have another question for Attorney Mays. So we are well aware of the issues with the vehicles within the city regarding noise. Has there been any new direction or toward what they should be doing to try to combat the current issue that's happening?
Are you talking about the equipment noise or like stereo noise?
The equipment noise.
Yes, and Officer Rager would probably be best suited to speak to that, but there are directed enforcement efforts towards enforcing the equipment, the noise coming from vehicle equipment.
Okay.
Attorney Mays, would you have access to that email right now? I don't know if you could send that right now, if that's possible. I'm looking for it. Okay, I have it. Alders, I will send that to you right now and you can peek at it, but it's pretty much been described. Forward. While we're waiting, can I ask, we will open the floor in a minute. So Officer, do you have anything more, Alder Stevens? Otherwise, I will forward that email to you, but I was wondering if Alder LaFave, you wanted to, or Alder LaFave, you had something?
No, Alder Stevens kind of brought up what I was wondering, so.
I would like to hear from the officer.
Yep, I would too. So Officer Rager, you've heard the conversation. Could you please add to it or talk on that a little bit?
Okay. So I'm one of the afternoon shift traffic officers. I work 2:15 to 10:45 Monday through Friday. You guys spoke on it already about the issue with like the street racers and the loud exhaust. I'm also watching all the other patrol officers, and like Miss Mays said, I can't recall in the last 2 weeks the last time we had a call for a loud vehicle regards to music. But in regards to what we're doing for loud equipment violations, we have 4 traffic officers, 2 on noons, including myself. Where majority of our time is dedicated towards Main Street, East Mason, Huron, and Humboldt, where most of the complaints are coming from. In addition to that, we have our traffic grants that include OWI and seatbelt tickets, which are additional officers that, in addition to looking for OWIs, they're being directed to focus on those equipment violations as well. And then we just got the go-ahead from Miss Mays to start maxing out citations. So turning these $100 citations into $313 citations for the first event, which seem to be having more of an impact on some of these drivers. So that's what we're doing at the traffic unit. I don't have the stats on the amount of tickets we've written so far, but I know as of the last 2 weeks, probably 10 to 15 just for equipment violations on those problem cars that are causing most of the issues.
Oh, it was mostly equipment and not so much loud stereo or music type of thing.
No, and to be honest, with the proposal for information being provided to the police department to try and cite drivers under that owner's liability, I'm not sure if there are any patrol officers that would feel comfortable writing citations purely off the observations of a neighborhood member, just somebody in the community, without training or anything. And without us being able to see or observe it ourselves, it would be very difficult for us to write citations like that.
All right. Thank you. Alder Stevens.
So yes, thank you, officer. I do have a question for you, officer. Regarding these vehicles that you've been citing, do you know, are they all mainly residents of Green Bay, or are they outside groups coming to the city?
I know last summer there was a couple car groups that were coming from out of the city. The ones we've seen this summer were mostly from Green Bay, and it's a matter of 15 or 20 cars. And most of the drivers we've stopped before multiple times for these issues. That's why we made the proposal or the request to Ms. Mays to try and max out these tickets, just because those $98 tickets that we have didn't seem to be cutting it or making an impact. But when you start stopping a car for speed and the equipment violations, those tickets quickly add up to $500 a stop. And we're not just doing that out of a blanket policy, but those that are causing these nuisance issues.
Alder Stevens, you have something else?
Yeah, I do. Just a peace of mind. We know we've been dealing with these for the last year or so. Why are the tickets being maxed out currently, and why did that not start sooner? Can someone answer the question?
I can't.
Attorney Mays?
Attorney Mays.
That proposal was recently made to me. I agreed with it. I thought that it was a good idea. Like the officer said, last summer it was out of town groups that were, it seemed to be a bigger number of cars. this summer, it seems like it's a more concentrated local group of vehicles. So I think that from a nuisance control standpoint, that it made sense to increase the forfeitures. So, I mean, we're all on the same page that we want to address the nuisance.
Oh, so you were unaware currently until someone brought to your attention that we weren't maxing them out?
Correct.
Okay.
And I mean,
Well, I'm glad that we're doing it now. Thank you.
Yeah, the municipal court judge sets the default bond amounts. So unless there's a extenuating circumstance, that's the amount that goes on the citation. So the officers do have the ability to change that dollar amount, but by and large, the default bond amount is the amount that goes on the citations.
Okay.
Okay.
Alder Stevens, I could address that as one of the supervisors. Most times the officers will come to us as a supervisor for permission in order to max out a ticket for whatever it is. And it's not something that we do right away. We do try other options because we don't want it to seem like we're just trying to hammer them with the most expensive ticket to generate money for the city, because that's the perception that comes out. So we do try many other tactics to try and solve whatever problem. A lot of times you can't ticket the problem away. So normally maxing it out is close to our last step. If anything else that we've tried does not work, that's where we go to the step of maxing out the ticket.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all the info. I'm
Right.
learning, so the only way you learn is if you ask a question, so.
Right. Alder LaFave, and then I'm going to make a proposal to open the floor. So Alder LaFave.
Yeah, I just want to quick say something. I better get on the phone and call my muffler place, because I heard last week already, I could hear a little bit in my exhaust system. I said, I've been so busy, I better get going, so I don't want to get caught.
We will be watching you.
That wouldn't be good.
So, all right, well, listen, with all that being said, and staff will be here, I'd like to have a proposal, someone open the floor. We have a motion.
Open the floor.
By Vanderleest, do we have a second?
Second.
Stevens, did you say it?
Yeah, at 6 o'clock, I have to leave.
You have to leave. Okay, that's fine.
That's right.
Second this then.
That's why he's sitting in
Second.
his
All
car.
right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, that passes unanimously, and we'll wait for Mary to allow us to move forward, but or Clerk Jeffries, can we move forward right away?
But before I leave,
Yeah,
I
I'm
just want to thank everybody. So
Okay, thank you for being here.
you're welcome.
We'll be down to 3, and in case something else happens, Alder Dorf said she would sit in, so she's in the bullpen right now.
Yes, that's fine. 3 is, you can certainly move forward.
Right.
Still have
All
time.
right, well, with that being said, I would please state your name and address for the record and continue. So whoever, yep, go ahead. Mr. Miller, if you'd like, just unmute yourself and
Okay, Rob Miller, 227 South Van Buren Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Can you hear me?
so go ahead and we'll ask you questions too.
Yeah,
So-
I guess the first matter is whether there's a problem, and we can go through various levels of that. But this whole situation started by my submitting a resolution to the Navarino Neighborhood Association Board of Directors with regard to asking for some action to solve the loud car problems in Navarino. This was about the first week of August. It passed unanimously by the Navarino Neighborhood Association, which suggests that this association, which I believe represents 2,000 or 3,000 people in Green Bay's downtown, thinks there is a problem. Before that, and let me go back to May or June. We had a neighborhood meeting with Commander Warwick, where a chorus of citizens talked about the loud car stuff. We had a discussion about the presence of a forum. Eventually, that was confirmed, and Commander Warwick was absolutely aware of this neighborhood's frustrations with the problem. So fast forward, I took the resolution passed by the Navarino neighborhood. I made an appointment to speak to the mayor. I spoke with the mayor's assistant, He said there were no ongoing abatement efforts as far as loud cars. I then spoke to the mayor, who basically admitted that there was a problem in Green Bay, that even on the second floor of City Hall, he could feel the throbbing stereos, which is absolutely consistent with our experience. Now, personally, over the summer, I would experience 3 or 4 throbbing stereos inside my house. So it's penetrating a porch as well as the interior wall. As I said, and it's a substantial problem, as well as the early morning. Now, as far as the so-called data points, I appended an article from Noise Free America with regard to their outline of the problem. They were indicating, and they're a group that's trying to solve the noise problem in this country, that they were reporting that no more than 5 or 10% of the complaints about loud stereos or the like are being reported. Notwithstanding that, they report that the #1 complaint by people to the Census Bureau as far as their neighborhoods is the noise. So what we're seeing here is exactly consistent with there being a problem and it not being reported to the police. After all, if I'm sitting inside my house and a car is whizzing by, and often these cars are going very fast on Van Buren Street, what's the point of calling the police? The police aren't going to be able to cite that vehicle. He or she is long gone. So what we're seeing here is an inaccurate assessment of the problem. The people in the Navarino neighborhood 24 hours a day for almost the entire year are reporting a problem. And to have people that live 7 miles away or people that spend very little time here telling us that it isn't the case is quite problematic. What we're looking for is a solution. The status quo is producing tremendous quantities of throbbing stereos. And you can't very well ask the populace to go out and solve this problem. 15 or 20 years ago, we did go out there and we gave the city the information. We had about 20 or 30 citations to the police department. The statute asked the police department to issue those citations. There weren't any contested cases. The people just capitulated, and eventually the problem subsided. It has escalated substantially since 15 or 20 years now, from that period of time, and we need additional help. What I am suggesting is it's not a response to just tell us, as Attorney Mays did, go out and abandon your jobs and spend full time on citing wrongdoers. We can't do that. We're doing the best we can to work our jobs right now. Throwing it on our backs to pay property taxes and then do the city's enforcement as well is a bit much. Let me continue.
We will be talking a little bit back and forth, but normally we limit 3 minutes and then we can have some questions, and there may be some other people that want to speak to the matter as well. So we'll be fair.
Okay.
So finish up your initial comments and then I'm going to.
What I'm asking for, and I'll close with this, is that the parking utility assist in this. And Attorney Mays opined that they're not trained, authorized, or equipped to do so. Well, my response is they're not disqualified from doing the same thing she's asking me to do simply because they're wearing the uniform of the City of Green Bay Parking Utility. When we did it 15 years ago, it was an attorney, a substitute teacher, and a scheduler at WDUZ. We had no special training and none is required. And we need no special authority. The statute authorizes that. What we're asking here is that the City of Green Bay devote this. As far as the exchequer, the economics, I want to make clear that the tickets for loud stereos are something like $60 or $70. It's like $180 to $200 on the second offense. So actually what's going to happen is that the city's the city's bank accounts are going to increase. And I don't think there's any reason why a parking utility can't cite a car 5 or 10 minutes later. So we're talking about comparing very large ticketed amounts versus $23 for a parking ticket. I believe they can do these tasks simultaneously, and I think the city's revenues will increase and the quality of life. I have more to say, but I'll stop.
Yeah, just, okay, we'll get back to you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this matter from the public? Anybody else? Anybody else would like to speak to this matter? One more time. Anybody else to speak to this matter? All right, I have a comment. Recently, I led a walking tour of the Oakland Dustman Historic District. Was part of that tour. And as we were walking, there were 3 vehicles that came by right on the street, very loud, throbbing music. We had to kind of hesitate and stop. And I guess I understand the difficulty that the city's looking at, as well as what Mr. Miller is looking at. It's one of those situations where you almost have to have a pad of paper or something ready and write the license plate down as quick as you can. That doesn't always happen. That's always difficult. And like was stated before, if a car comes by your house making a lot of noise, 9 out of 10 times it's gone, and you're not going to be able to go. It's difficult. So, the citizens of our community as well, if they take a license down, and, I know the police, and I'll ask Lieutenant Mahoney about that. I think, or Officer Rager as well, that if, I'll be driving along on Mason Street Bridge, for example, and somebody came whipping by me doing at least 70. I think I got their license number, but I didn't call it in right away. I wished I would have. Those type of things. It sounds to me like the police need some kind of documentation to help with this matter, whether it's a video or a license. And even if you talk to these people and maybe gave them a warning initially and just say, look, we're watching, that might help. So Lieutenant or Officer, could you talk to that?
I'll speak to that. The hard part for us is, once again, to prove in court. If you said you're up on the Mason Street Bridge and you say a car goes by you at 70 miles per hour, it's my experience, and nothing against the citizens of Green Bay, that they greatly
exaggerate.
Yeah, that they just don't know. We get complaints all the time that cars are driving down my street at 65 miles an hour. We will go out there with the laser detector, so it's not the speed board. We will see with the person and show them that they're actually not going that. So it's a misperception. Yes, are cars speeding all over Green Bay? Using your example, yes. Are there loud cars in Green Bay? Absolutely. But the hard part is, yes, if the person decides to challenge it in court, we don't really have too much of a leg to stand on. And not to argue with Attorney Miller, I was at that same meeting with Commander Warwick. When he says about this form, at that meeting, he was told, we have a request for service tab on the City of Green Bay's website. Our department, yes, we're stretched thin with the resources and our manpower. We ask that when that happens, people, we might not be able to get it right then and there, but if we see there's a cluster of loud music at Friday night at 10 o'clock at night, what we do is ask Officer Rager, hey, could you adjust your schedule to work Friday night at 10 o'clock at night? We get complaints all over the city that you people know as older people, that is probably your number one complaint is speed and loud noise in every single street, in every single district in the city. Our job is to manage our resources as best as we can. And that means, yes, like Attorney Miller said, if he calls in at 10 o'clock at night, are you going to get us there to catch the guy that night? Probably not, unless we're right then and there. But if we see that there's a cluster, I'll give a perfect example. Out on Huron Road, we received numerous complaints. We were finally able to narrow down a date and a time that always seemed to be happening. One of our community police officers sat out there, was able to catch them. Maybe not the group, but they were able to show that we were out there enforcing. I would be very leery nothing against the public, but I'll use the example. Something as simple as a car is playing the thumping music. They don't like the music. That person calls in and complains. But if they're playing music that the person likes, they don't call in and complain. All of a sudden, it's the police department that gets accused of profiling people. And all we're doing is basing it off of what people call in on. That's one of the other issues that we run into. So I understand the owner's liability. Yes, if I even said at that meeting at the Navarino neighborhood, if you get us video or your cell phone camera or audio where you're sitting in your living room where we could hear the thumping bass, that helps us out a lot. That's the type of evidence we need to write the ticket, not just that someone said they heard it, they were 75 feet away. That would be very hard for Attorney Mays to prosecute that in court. Yes, will some people just pay it and not go to court? Yeah, but anyone that challenges in court, is my opinion, we're gonna have a hard time. And when you talk about revenue for the city, you're gonna be paying the officer overtime, Attorney Mays's time to fight a $25 ticket. You're actually, in my mind, gonna be in the hole fighting this ticket.
All right, thank you for that. Oberdorf, did you want to say something?
I do, but if the floor is still open, I suppose I should wait.
Yeah, right. Well, if you have, do you have any questions, ask of Mr. Miller? I mean,
No, I have a question to ask of the attorney and
okay.
of lieutenant
Right.
because of what has been said, but
Okay.
not.
All right, we'll get back to that. Mr. Miller, you heard some of the comments here. You know, I understand some of the frustration that you're dealing with in your neighborhood. And, you know, the central city, you know, there probably is more of that. There's more of a concentration of folks, more apartments, things like that. And, you know, once you get out into the farther stretches of the city, I don't think, well, I'm just assuming that it's not quite the issue that you might be seeing here in the central city. So I was just going to ask you, I'm going to just ask you what you thought. You know, you thought that the parking utility could be doing something. Attorney Mays already kind of stated that that might be a little more difficult to do. You know, that you contacted, Mr. Miller, you also contacted Noel Halverson and some of the neighborhood associations. What was their take on it? Because, you know, the associations cover most of the city and they have some ideas as well. I would like to see them maybe come up with some ideas as well, not just yourself and Navarino, but the other neighborhood associations. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
I made 3 overtures to the neighborhood associations since August, and it's actually run by the NeighborWorks, and nothing happened. Apparently, the person that organized this left NeighborWorks, and I wasn't given an opportunity to address the Association of Neighborhood Presidents. Mr. Halverson sent out my stuff this morning to the neighborhood presidents. I think they have a meeting this evening, so I'm not in any position to tell you what their reaction is. But I guess from what I've seen and heard at these various meetings and talking to community police officers, it sounds like the police department is stretched to the limit. I hear from my community police officers that they're understaffed. They have a hard time recruiting. And parenthetically, I am not suggesting that individual citizens have the right to have speeders cited. That's not part of the statute. And I don't think that is legal. So that's not part of my proposal. The statute in question clearly permits ordinary citizens to give the information to the police department for a citation. We've had a pretty successful experience based on 15 or 20 years ago. The people that are complaining have to be prepared to testify. I don't know what the problem is. We use individual testimony all the time in courts to convict people. Sometimes it's just one person testifying, such as a rape or some sort of assault. So I don't understand why this is particularly difficult. It's not the officer that's seeing it, it's the individual citizen. And when we sent the citations to the police department, we understood that if there was a contest, we would be required to testify. And I, in fact, sent one in After this meeting, I followed up to see if anything happened. I got no response from the crime prevention officer. So I don't know what's going on. We need a better coordination with regard to what happens when people send this stuff in. And we need a real motivation on the city to try to solve this problem. I've heard perhaps 30 or 40 minutes of rationale or deflection of why we can't solve the problem, or we should call the police department. People are, I'm quite frankly thankful with the kind of job the police department is doing right now, that I'm not being shot outside. I mean, we live in some dangerous times.
Okay, we'll finish up a little bit and then we're gonna.
Okay, but what I would like to come away with from this meeting with is some sort of solution besides telling me you work from 9 to 5, you pay increased taxes. Now you go out and try to record video on Van Buren Street or whatever of somebody who's playing a loud stereo. That's a non-starter. You can't ask anything more of this citizenry. We have, I think we can use some of their time to solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, I'm for now, I entertain a motion to close the floor. Anybody?
Motion to close the floor.
By Vanderleest, seconded by LaFave. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And if need be, we'll open it again. But right now, I'd like Alberdorf, you were first here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of things. I am very pleased to hear that we use data in determining where to place our officers and our resources, because that's the wisest course to take. And I did not hear data that supports this particular complaint. So I think that would have to be the first thing that would happen. If this is bothering the citizens, then it is on them to put the complaint in. And they should be putting the complaints in very easily. It's very easy to put it in on the website. And using that data, one could find out maybe what times of day these things happen or where exactly these things are happening. This sounds like a problem in certain parts of the city of Green Bay. I honestly, I can't even be polite and say that I find that it really doesn't. I kind of laugh when I'm driving and hear a car and think, oh, they're just sharing their music with me. You know, it doesn't, but it bothers some people to have someone else's loud music. For the first point I want to make is more data would need to be gathered, I believe, via citizen complaints put into the system before we would even consider doing anything else. I also heard we should expect more from our employees, but we shouldn't expect more from our citizens. No, that's not right. We are all in this together. And if our citizens want something to get done and they're able to do something to help get it done, then it's on them too. It's on them, and it's their responsibility to get the video, to make the report, to call it in. I also agree with what I heard. That was the opinion of Attorney Mays, that our parking utility is not trained for this type of thing. They also have a full-time job. They have their day job. It's parking utility. They're doing that job and they're patrolling the streets and they're writing the tickets. And that's what they were hired to do. That's what we expect them to do. So I am not, well, there is no really proposal here, but so I'm not against any proposal. What I'm for is using data to determine how we use our resources. And then by using that data, we can then target the problem.
Okay, thank you, Alder.
Officer Rager has.
Oh, yes, I'll get them. Officer Rager, go ahead. You want to add something?
Yeah, so we were getting a ton of complaints on Huron this summer for the racing and the loud exhaust. So one of their neighborhood associations, I've been to their meetings before about those complaints. They had 1 or 2 people for a week just take charge of their neighborhood and document for a week every instance of loud music or loud exhaust or speeding. And they had what it sounded like. It sounded like motorcycles on Monday nights or loud trucks on Tuesday nights, but they had timeframes of when these occurrences happened, and we directed patrol based on that. So I understand that Mr. Miller has his own life, and he doesn't think he should have to do this, but I'm just telling you what worked for the Huron neighborhood. So if he could get together with a couple of his fellow neighborhood association members and get a week of detailed information about when these violations are happening, or what the cars look like, or what kind of music, or where they live, what direction they're going. If they give us just something more to go on, there are officers that can dedicate time to that. CPs and the traffic officers can look at that, but it would take some work on his part as well.
I appreciate that, Officer Rager. Alder LaFave.
I don't, how many in the complaints that you had mentioned, what area, were they kind of like all over the city, or is Navarino one of the areas that's really being impacted on this? The reason I bring this up, I remember, I can't remember which chief it was a while ago. Navarino was having all kinds of issues, break-ins. I don't know if it was with car speeding, all kinds of things. And what he did is he had officers patrolling in that anybody with anything, a light out in their car, loud muffler, anything that happened. And they found out that those people moved on. They didn't go in that neighborhood anymore. So it really, that might be another thing. If it seems like it's in a certain area, that maybe we could have more patrols also in that area, so that the police officers themselves can find these violations.
Okay, thank you for that. I wanted to piggyback on that, and I know some time ago, this is for the police, especially neighborhood meetings, and I actually sat in on a few of those on some other issues. And there were community officers that walked the neighborhood as well. And I don't know if I can talk to the police about that. Is there much of that anymore? Is it all patrol? Do you have a number of folks that occasionally would say, okay, between 10 o'clock and noon, we've been having a lot of problems. It would be nice if we could have something set up where, the schedule would be that, okay, we're going to walk through the neighborhood like 2 or 3 times a week, check it out. That type of that.
That goes back to the point, if we get the data, could we possibly? I don't like to use it to sound like an excuse. In the past, we used to have 18 community police officers. Come December, we're going to have 10. So I could tell you on the Near East Side, there's 2 community police officers assigned to cover pretty much from the river all the way to Baird Street. So they are spread thin with the rotating schedule. Can we do that? Yes, but as Alder Dorf said, that's why we're very data driven, because with the limited amount of resources we have to prioritize. And Mr. Miller's right. I don't live in the Navarino neighborhood. I understand the frustration and the passion, and I respect that. It's just with the resources that we have to target. I guess we prioritize our targets on where we want to hit. And if I only have 2 CPs to assign out there, and I have shootings going on over off East Mason and other things going on, yes, the noise complaints fall to the very bottom of the list. So in an ideal world, we'd have more officers and be able to do that. That's why, like Alder Dorf said and Officer Rager, because Alder Dorf called about the Huron Road issue. Once we get that data and it's just a little work from the public, that helps us out tremendously, instead of the proverbial throwing a dart at a dartboard and hoping we hit. So to walk through the neighborhoods would be very difficult, is because we have so many neighborhoods and so many things to do. It'd be very difficult to say every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 12, we'll definitely do that. Unless we have data or notice, okay, yeah, we're having a problem with kids or whatever, then by all means we would do that. But we just can't do it to do it.
Okay, I appreciate those comments. Attorney Mays?
Yeah, I don't want to give the impression that I'm throwing this back on the citizens of the neighborhood. The noise complaints, vehicle equipment complaints, traffic complaints are enforced by our police department, and there is a willingness to enforce the statutes and the ordinances that are in place. But we can't just have a squad sitting in the Navarino neighborhood at all hours of the day. We have to be smart about those resources. So looking at the dispatch notes going back to July 1st, just for Navarino, there were 8 vehicle stereo complaints. And looking at the web complaints, which is the form that was suggested to Mr. Miller that the members of the neighborhood fill out, there was 1 complaint from the Navarino neighborhood out of the entire city since the beginning of September. Now, there's a difference between a vehicle that's in traffic and someone may not be able to grab a plate because it's driving by. But if somebody is sitting in a driveway or at a park and they're playing their music, I mean, that's something that officers can respond to. That is something that can be addressed. And even if citizens get the information, or at least partial information, like Officer Rager said, officers may not be willing to write a citation just on the complaint of a single citizen, but I know that Officer Rager said that he'd be willing to at least write a warning letter in a situation like that. My concern is having to prove this in court. If we get a bad blood situation where you've got 2 neighbors that are fighting, or ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, and they start calling in complaints on each other, I've got a he said, she said situation, and I'm not comfortable enforcing a citation just based off of the information from a single complainant. And I think that issuing a citation on the fact that 15 years ago people capitulated, if we can't meet our burden of proof, we shouldn't be writing citations. So I think that there's room for warning letters just based off of resident complaints. I think if we get more data points, there's a willingness to have patrol or traffic or community police officers do something once we can narrow down when those resources would be best used. We're not trying to throw this back on the neighborhood association or its residents, but we need some data before we can smartly use our resources.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Mason. I was going to talk briefly about what Alder Dorf did in her district, and Officer Rager, if you could answer to that. It sounded like there was issues that were going on that area for quite some time. How many quote unquote data points did it take to finally tip the scales on something like that? A couple, 5? I mean, Alder Dorf, you're there, you probably could tell us too. And what period of time? Over what period of time?
5 years? Seriously?
5 years?
I would say almost from the instant I was elected. So, and the police department was very helpful, and the signs would go up, the flashing radar signs, but it didn't get really solved until the neighbors said, oh, okay, and they agreed to do what Officer Rager described, because it's one thing to hear there's loud trucks or motorcycles going down the street at all hours, and another to hear, well, on each Monday night between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock, we hear these particular noises, and this has gone on for 5 weeks in a row now. So then there's a data point, because the police would be out there all the time and they'd be trying, they would have a presence, but gathering that data, I feel made a big difference. But let's let Officer Rager say
yeah, that's fine. And I agree also, we're all citizens, we need to be the representatives, so they're technically our boss. So Officer Rager, you wanted to add on that?
I'm newer to the traffic unit. There's 2 of us. The ones on noons are on it this year. So we're younger than typically the traffic officers would be. So I guess we're a little bit more motivated in our policing style. But the Huron neighborhoods all up and down Huron Road from Mason to Humboldt were just very vocal. And I've been to a community meeting out there as well. But like, it's just a matter of giving us enough data to go on to deploy out there.
Right.
Because I think when we first started to try and go out there and make a difference in the beginning of the summer, we would sit out there for 10, 12 hours a week and not get many speeders just because we didn't know when to sit out there. And the thing that we find most with traffic complaints are the majority of the violators live in those neighborhoods. So the majority of the people that we stop on Huron Road live off of Huron Road. So it's not the biggest issue regarding out-of-towners speeding down that road. It's a lot of it, there are residents that are equally violating it as much as the 10 or 15 problem cars that we deal with all across the city.
Okay, thank you. I might open the floor one more time, but I just wanted to state something to the effect that, you know, with Navarino and maybe some of the other downtown associations, I would agree with how the conversation has gone. We'll at least look at these data points, you know, getting more data together from Navarino, from downtown, from East River, you know, some of the different neighborhood associations that are there, because it seems to me that, you know, you are throwing a dart kind of at the situation. You may catch somebody here and there, but it's difficult, and we are stretched thin with the police force. So, you know, we got to be smart about this as well. So I guess I would say I would look for something that would say, you know, let's put the effect of having the neighborhood associations and some of the citizens in those areas gather more data points. So I don't know.
Comment, Mark, when you're done.
Yeah, go ahead, Alder Vanderleest. Why don't you help me out on this?
No, we got our neighborhood associations, you know, where if people notice crime or whatever, they in other words, they keep track of it and they get the data and they turn it into the police. I think the Neighborhood Watch Association, you know, where there is an issue, whatever the issue might be, if it's loud noise or loud vehicles, the Neighborhood Watch, the people that are involved with the Neighborhood Watch Associations, I think they can be very helpful in compiling some of the data and helping out as well. And I'm just throwing that out there, you know, about the Neighborhood Watch, because I know they've had some issues with drugs in my district over on Western Avenue, and the Neighborhood Watch people have been helpful to the Brown County drug tests and things like that. So, you know, we might want to, you know, check on that avenue as well with the Neighborhood Watch, where, in other words, they're looking for specific things, something that's not normal. Well, driving like you're crazy down the street on Western Avenue is not normal. And,
right.
And some of those, you know, license plates, and same way with the music. So that's my comment.
All right, thank you. I know this will be a situation at a time, but I guess I'm looking for a little help on a solution for this. We could receive it and place it on file, and, you know, talk about it in the future, you know, after we have more data points. Attorney Mays, do you have anything that you can add to this? Your thoughts as far as the city, what we should do from your end?
So I think that getting some specific times, dates, locations, even if we don't get license plate numbers, I mean, any information that we get, if we get a license plate number, we can send them a warning letter saying your vehicle was caught playing music too loud or reported playing music too loud. Here's what the restrictions are. You can't have your music playing at where people can hear it from a distance of 75 feet away. We can use dates, times, locations to direct enforcement. And there's a willingness by the police department to direct resources if we're using them smartly. So, I mean, I think between warning letters and directed enforcement with the increase in complaints, I think the issue is just getting those complaints in the system, whether that's online complaints that can be filed anytime, or in the moment complaints that are coming through dispatch. We're looking at both of those systems. So however they get reported, we need residents to step up with some of that information so that we can issue the warning letters and send the directed enforcement smartly.
Well, with that being said, I appreciate that. And I don't know if you or attorney, I mean, I'm just looking at this communication and how we would word that as such, because I think it is important that we just don't kill this issue. I think it's something that's been going on for some time, but we do need the data points. We do need some information. We do need to consider the resources that we do have, that we're stretched fairly thin in some areas. So is there something, okay, hold on a second. Attorney Miller, one more time, I'm going to ask for a motion, open the floor. Mr. Miller, I'm going to have you finish off your comments and then one more time. So Alder Lefebvre, did you want to open the floor for me?
Yeah, yes, I'll make a motion. Open.
Okay, motion. Alder Vanderleest, do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. All right, Mr. Miller, you got your, you've heard a bunch of things, so let's make it succinct and we'll work it out. We'll see what happens.
It's pretty frustrating that we're back to square one here. All I can, I mean, one point I would like to make is that in the meeting that apparently Lieutenant Mahoney and Warwick and a couple other officers attended, if these ground rules had been set forth at that point, the neighborhood would have responded accordingly, because it is a plague that we have, as well as with speeding vehicles. It almost seems as if the rules are changing from May or June to October. And when we talk about data points, I've noted that very few people are submitting these complaints. You know, Noise America is looking at 5 or 10%. Apparently, a resolution unanimously passed by the residents' board of directors of the neighborhood association isn't a data point. That's what I'm coming away with. And asking the neighbors to submit the complaints, well, we'll do that. The problem is not as severe, obviously, in the winter as it is in the spring, summer, and the like. But apparently, the city of Green Bay has really no answer to this except to ask us to do something else. Thank you.
All right. Lieutenant Mahoney. No, you have an Lieutenant Mahoney, go ahead.
Approximately a year ago, the city and all the alders are very aware about the request for service tab. That is something the police department actively encourages people. With all due respect to Mr. Miller, that was brought up at that meeting. The head of the neighborhood association was surprised to learn about that tab. I personally told everyone at that meeting, submit as much as you possibly can. So I do take offense to that, because that was brought up a couple weeks ago or months ago. The rules have not changed. We have always said to use the request for service tab. And by all means, I want to continue that. You don't need to, if you don't want to do it every time, write down on a notebook and do it once, saying on Friday night at 8:30, 8:45, 9, 9:45, you could do it one time. We are in this together, as Alder Dorf said. We don't have the resources to have a squad car there. It's your community, it's your neighborhood. You need to help us. The people in your neighborhood need to help us. I've stressed that. Commander Warwick has stressed that numerous times. The request for service is very easy to use. You could be anonymous with it. Without the data, I'll be honest, no, we can't do anything about it without the data.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Miller, I have a suggestion. The neighborhood associations meet the first Thursday of every month. And, I could see this being a topic that, that would be presented on the agenda at that meeting, and you could talk about it then. Is that something that you would be amenable to?
I've made 3 requests to speak to the neighborhood associations. Mr. Halverson got back to me today and he sent it. Anytime they're available, I will show up.
I will work with you on that to see if we can get that on that agenda. Okay. So okay, thank you. Motion to close the floor, anybody?
Motion to close the floor.
By Vanderleest, seconded by Lefebvre. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to move forward on this. I think there was a lot of good info. Go ahead, Alder Lefebvre.
I just want to say, I brought up that how they targeted Navarino before, but that was how many years ago when we did have enough police officers, and we had been cutting since then our police officers, and we finally last year I think we added a couple more. But as you heard Officer Rager, there's two of them. It's right. Look at how big our city. We just added what was it, how many thousands more people?
Another
And
5,
yeah, so
2,500, 2,500.
2,500, yeah. So we're expanded and we got more and more people. And so, yeah, they're stretched really thin. So I think maybe we should make a motion to, let's see, how do you want to do it? We want police officers to work with the neighborhood associations or those who are complaining to establish a time frame when these instances are occurring, if they can. And how to, I'm trying to word it. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a little
have a
difficult.
database so that, right,
Refer
so
to
that.
staff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, hold on.
I just
Attorney
referred to
Bungard,
staff.
Attorney Bungard, can you help us on that a little bit?
Yeah.
I think from listening to the discussion, I think the more appropriate motion in this instance would be to simply just hold the item for, let's say, I don't know, a certain amount of time, some several months, and bring it back to report if any additional data has been input through the
Okay.
request for service. And
That
then
is
at that
great,
point, we
thank
can
you.
look at the information and then determine versus giving direction directly to PD at this point, because there's nothing for PD to do. It's more of just kind of keeping abreast of the situation. So I think if we just hold the item for a report back on any additional data that has been gathered regarding these types of complaints, and then the committee can discuss.
All right, now, and like it was said, that winter time is coming up. It's not quite as, it's a different time period than in the warm months. So
Right.
we might have to do this once or twice. So do we have a motion to that effect? Alder Vanderleest or Alder LaFave to what Attorney Bungard said?
Yeah, I'll make that motion then. That's how.
Do you
So
want to specify a specific time for this to come back?
Yeah, what do you
Yep,
think?
I would say, I don't have a meeting scheduled for next year. Our last
We
meeting,
usually meet twice. So we could set it for example, like after spring, so beginning of May. Or is
that's
that?
gonna have to be, well, I would, so I would shoot, well, the election is what, the 11th? So we'll have a new council.
No, Alder, the election is
This is the
February
4th?
16th and April 6th.
April 6th, okay,
Yes.
so we will have a new council. I'd almost like to have it before then. Unless
So in
somebody else
March,
has
your
another idea.
options are, that would be March 14th or March 28th, if you want to bring back to a regular P&P meeting.
March 28th, Alderdorf.
I was just going to say that in summertime, people will more likely drive with their windows open and the music can be heard more, I think. And then in the winter, it's, you know, the winter, and winter's coming pretty quick. I mean, it's warm October, but I think it's okay to put this on a new, not necessarily
That's
put
the
it
new
on the
council?
council, but I just don't know that we get much of anything to talk about.
Well,
And I don't want,
you're right. I think you're right about that, but I think just for sake of the time frame, there's like another 4 months or 4.5 months just to report out on that. And if we decide to go further, we'll do that. I feel good with that.
okay.
So, all right,
Yeah.
Alder LaFave, you're good with that? March 28th?
Okay.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All,
What?
any
I
other
have to
discussion?
go to another
Yes?
meeting. I have
What's
to
that?
leave. I have to leave. I have to go.
All right. Okay, thank you. Alder Dorf, will you sit in for us? Well, let's vote on this first. Alder Vanderleest, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? We'll be revisiting this in March. All right, thank you, Alder Vanderleest. Alder Dorf, you're in?
I'm in, I signed in president voting.
Oh, all right, thanks. All this,
Did we miss we Oh, I
No?
see 4 and then it's 5. They're reversed on. the
Yes,
thing.
no,
Okay.
yeah, we're
Okay.
good. We got one more. So
Okay.
Mary, let us know when you're ready and we will
I'm all
move
set.
forward.
Thank you.
Are we ready?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, number 5, for consideration with possible action on general ordinance number 2421-21, amending section 24-16 sub 14 of the Green Bay Municipal Code relating to public nuisances affecting peace and safety staff.
Yes, so this is just a very simple fix. It's just correcting an erroneous cross-reference in the code. So it's just making that correction.
Okay,
I move to approve.
okay. All right, we, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimously. Alderdorf, thanks for your input.
No problem. Get me on the committee. It's good.
Yeah, ooh, telling you, it's a team effort. All right, let me know when you're ready, Mary.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. Informational liquor violation report. Lieutenant Mahoney, you're smiling. You may.
I know it's what you've been waiting for, so I'm happy
Yes.
to report that we had no violations during this time frame.
Thank you for your input. I'd like,
Do you need a move to receive and place on
yes,
file? Okay.
yes.
Receive
By
and place on-
Alderdorf, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by LaFave, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that passes unanimously. So, are we ready for the last, can we adjourn now, Mary?
I think we could see move to adjourn. right?
Yeah,
Here,
okay, go ahead.
Make a
I'll let
motion
you do
to
it.
Yes, we're all set.
Motion by LaFave, seconded by Dorf. All in favor, please say aye. I just wanted to mention, before I forget, all of this goes to city council. I forgot to mention that, I apologize. On October 19th, this is just the committee decisions, and it will be going 6 o'clock on October 19th. Our next PNP meeting will be October 25th, Monday at 5:30 PM. Thank you for the conversation, the input, and the knowledge, everybody.
We have to
So,
say-
yeah, are we all adjourn? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay.
No
Let's go.
opposed. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
meeting.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you,
care.
Alderdorf, for sitting in. Good night.